I woke to the sharp, sterile smell of disinfectant and the metallic taste of panic lingering on my tongue. Blinking against the harsh fluorescent lights, I realized I wasn't home. The crisp white sheets felt alien against my skin, and the relentless beeping of the heart monitor set my pulse racing in a rhythm that didn't belong to me. My head throbbed, my stomach churned, and deep in my chest, an undeniable ache of shame twisted painfully. I tried to piece together how I'd ended up here, and then it all came back in fragmented flashes. Laughter from strangers I shouldn't have been with, the dizzying thrill of attention, and the terrible, foolish choices I'd made. My phone buzzed on the bedside table. At first, I ignored it, too afraid to face the world outside this antiseptic cage. But the notifications kept piling up, missed calls, unread texts, voicemails. One message made my stomach drop. I can't do this anymore. I'm gone. It was from Daniel, my husband, the man I had promised forever to, the one I loved, or thought I did, had vanished just like that. No warning, no shouting, no chance to explain. Just gone. The room seemed to shrink around me. When the nurse peeked in, her expression cautiously gentle, I wanted to scream, to cry, to demand how he could leave me after everything. All I managed was a hollow whisper. What happened? I asked. You were found unconscious outside a bar downtown, the nurse said softly. Some passerby called an ambulance. You were intoxicated and involved with two strangers. Do you remember anything? My throat tightened. I shook my head, but the memories refused to cooperate, coming back in jagged fragments. Flashing lights, laughter, hands that weren't Daniel's. Regret gripped me like a tidal wave, my stomach twisting. I don't understand, I whispered. You were hurt, she said gently. Physically, not seriously. Emotionally, that's another story. Her words cut deeper than the pounding in my skull. Emotionally, how could I even begin to explain what I'd done, what I'd allowed, and why Daniel had left without a word? His story began hours earlier, that morning, long before I ended up in the hospital. He woke to an empty bed. The faint scent of my perfume lingered, but there was no sign of me. His phone was flooded with alarming messages from friends, co-workers, even mine. He didn't answer. Panic clawed at his chest as he drove downtown, only to find me unconscious on the sidewalk. Seeing me helpless and intoxicated didn't bring relief. It brought devastation. His anger boiled, not just at the strangers, but at me, at us, at the promises quietly shattering in the early hours. By the time the ambulance arrived, he had made a choice. He couldn't stay, not with betrayal, secrecy, and humiliation hanging over us. A note rested on my bedside table, hand trembling as he wrote, Can't fix this. I can't watch us destroy each other anymore. I'm leaving. Take care of yourself. My memory of the night came back in jagged fragments stitched together by shame. It had started innocently enough, or so I told myself. I went out with friends, seeking escape from the tension at home. Daniel had been distant, buried in work, barely noticing me except to complain or offer distracted half-smiles. I felt invisible. One drink became 3, then 5. I laughed too loudly, leaned too close to strangers, flirted in ways that made me feel alive. 2 men took an interest, and a reckless, desperate part of me welcomed it. I hadn't planned for it to go as far as it did. I hadn't imagined waking up in a hospital, bruised and humiliated, but that was a reality. When Daniel returned later that afternoon, the tension was almost physical. He didn't speak at first, standing by the door with hands in pockets, jaw tight. The love I had taken for granted seemed replaced by a hard, impenetrable wall. Daniel, I started, voice trembling. Don't. He cut me off. Just don't. Tears burned my eyes. I'm sorry. I don't know why I did it. I wasn't thinking. You weren't thinking, he repeated, voice cracking despite his control. Do you have any idea what it feels like to come home expecting us and find out you've been out with strangers? I didn't mean for it to happen, I sobbed, my voice echoing in the stark room. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't mean to hurt me, he said bitterly, shaking his head. It's not just about being hurt. It's about trust, about promises. You threw that away in one night. I can't do this anymore. His words struck harder than any blow. My chest tightened, the room spinning. He wasn't angry in a way I could apologize my way out of. He was shattered, disillusioned, leaving me. The following days blurred in regret. Phone calls unanswered, the deafening quiet of an empty home. I replayed that night endlessly. Every fragment, every laugh, every reckless touch became a dagger. No reasoning could erase the truth. I had betrayed the person who loved me most. Friends and family couldn't comfort me. Their eyes held pity. Their concern thinly veiled judgment. Every word reminded me my actions had consequences far beyond a single night. Weeks later, I saw Daniel again. It wasn't planned. I went to retrieve a few things from the apartment, hoping he wouldn't be there, but he was sitting on the couch, arms crossed, staring at the floor. "Daniel," I whispered. He didn't look up. "You really don't understand, do you?" "I do," I said. "I understand now. I see what I did. I'm so sorry." He finally met my eyes. They were wary, tired, guarded. "Sorry doesn't fix it," he said quietly. "You can say it 1,000 times. It doesn't change the fact you let us down, that you broke something we can't repair." "I know," I whispered. "I'll live with it the rest of my life. I just wish you knew how much I regret it." Regret won't undo the night, the heartbreak, the trust that's gone. I loved you. I still do in some way. But love isn't enough when trust and respect are shattered. I can't live like that. Tears slid down my cheeks. For the first time, I truly saw the pain I'd caused, not just to him, but to myself. The reckless thrill of a night out had cost me the most precious part of my life. The man I loved, the life we built. As he walked out, something inside me broke, not in anger, not in self-pity, but in bitter clarity. I had made a choice, and the consequences were mine alone. I spent months rebuilding my life, confronting my mistakes, trying to understand why I sought fleeting excitement in strangers rather than facing the emptiness at home. Therapy helped. Friends supported me. But nothing could replace the void Daniel left. I never saw him again. The apartment felt hollow, memories haunting every corner. I learned to live with the weight of my decisions, the crushing reality of betrayal, and the painful truth that some mistakes can never be forgiven by others or even by ourselves. Years later, I remember that night not with rebellion or thrill, but with raw, unrelenting ache. The strangers faded from memory, but Daniel's absence was permanent. A reminder of what happens when love is taken for granted and trust is broken. I woke in the ER surrounded by strangers. But I truly awakened only when I realized I had lost a person who had always been my home. And sometimes when the world is quiet, I still hear the echo of his footsteps leaving. And I know some choices, no matter how fleeting or thrilling, come at an unbearable cost.